Have you ever had one of those days where someone says something rude or even just looks at you the wrong way and suddenly your whole mood is off? It doesn't even have to be a big thing. A careless comment from a family member, a stranger cutting you off in traffic, a friend who doesn't return your call. And before you know it, the peace you woke up with is long gone, replaced by frustration, sadness, or that old, familiar anger that you thought you'd grown out of years ago. You're not alone. In fact, you're probably a lot more normal than you think. Because after 60, something changes. Not just in the body, but in the mind and heart too. You've lived through enough that little things shouldn't shake you anymore. But somehow, they still do. And that's okay. This journey of emotional mastery, it's not about pretending to be calm all the time or letting people walk all over you. It's about learning how to stay centered even when the world around you feels loud, messy, or unfair. So today, we're going to walk through something powerful. Not trendy advice or quick fixes, but real, grounded wisdom. We're going to talk about how to protect your peace, how to understand your emotions, and how to stop giving your power away to other people's moods, words, or drama. Together, we'll explore 6 life-changing ideas drawn from timeless psychological insight. But don't worry, I won't throw any jargon at you. Just real stories, practical tools, and gentle reminders that your emotional well-being still matters. It always has, and it always will. Let's start with something that might sound a little uncomfortable at first, but stay with me. It's called the shadow. No, not the spooky kind. In simple terms, your shadow is the part of you that holds feelings you've pushed down, ignored, or never had a safe place to express. Things like shame, insecurity, jealousy, even anger. And here's the thing. When we don't deal with these hidden parts of ourselves, they have a way of showing up anyway, often in ways we don't expect. Imagine this. You're at a family dinner. Everyone's laughing, passing around stories and casseroles. Then your niece, or maybe your daughter-in-law, makes a comment like, "Well, back in your day, I guess things were different." It's said with a laugh, but it hits you the wrong way. Your chest tightens. You feel dismissed, like your experience is being brushed off. And maybe you snap back. Or maybe you stay silent, but stew in it for hours afterward, replaying it in your head. That reaction? It might not be about her comment at all. It could be your shadow, an old hurt from years ago when people didn't take you seriously, or when you felt invisible. When someone pokes at that part of us, even accidentally, it's like pressing a bruise we forgot was there. But here's the gift in all of this. Once you see your shadow, it loses its power. When you feel that flash of emotion, instead of letting it hijack your whole day, you can pause and ask yourself, what is this really about? Maybe it's not just about now. Maybe it's something deeper, something you've carried for a long time without realizing it. This isn't about blaming yourself. It's about understanding yourself. And when you do that, when you bring those hidden feelings into the light, you can respond from a place of wisdom, not just emotion. You start to realize that your triggers aren't flaws. They're signals. They're invitations to heal something inside. One simple way to work with your shadow is to journal when you feel yourself getting upset. Write down what happened, how strong your feelings are, and what it reminds you of. Be honest, even if the answer surprises you. You might write, "I got upset when Linda cut me off in conversation. I felt ignored, like my voice didn't matter." And then maybe you realize, "I used to feel that way with my father when I was a child." That's big. That's powerful. And even just noticing it can help you start to let it go. Now let's talk about something equally important: choosing your response. If you've ever said, "She made me so mad," or "He ruined my whole day," I want to gently challenge that. Because while people can absolutely push our buttons, we still have the final say in how we respond. And that's a beautiful thing. Between every moment that triggers us and our reaction to it, there is a small space, a pause, and in that pause is your power. Think of it like this. Someone says something critical, or they forget your birthday, or they post something passive-aggressive online. You feel it coming, tight chest, clenched jaw, that inner voice getting louder. But instead of reacting right away, you pause. Just for 3 seconds. Breathe in, breathe out. In those 3 seconds, ask yourself, do I want to let this control me? Or do I want to respond in a way that reflects who I really am? You might be surprised what happens when you give yourself that space. That 3-second pause might save you from an argument, a sleepless night, or a lingering bitterness. And even if you still decide to speak up, you'll do it from a place of clarity, not just emotion. You're not stuffing down your feelings. You're simply choosing how to express them in a way that honors you. Let me give you an example. A woman I know, Marlene, told me about a time when her sister criticized her decision to downsize her home. "You're giving up too much," her sister said. "Don't you feel like you're just shrinking?" Marlene was livid. But instead of blowing up, she paused, took a walk around the block. And later, when she'd calmed down, she called her sister and said, "You may not understand my choice, and that's okay, but I'm proud of it, and I'd love your support." That's what it means to choose your response. It's not weakness. It's strength in its most elegant form. And it's something you already have inside you. You've just got to reach for it more often. You are not too old to grow. You are not too set in your ways to change how you carry your emotions. In fact, the years you've lived give you more wisdom, not less. You've earned the right to peace. And the way to protect that peace starts with understanding your shadow and choosing your response, even when the world tries to rattle you. There's a moment many women experience after 60 that's hard to describe, but it's real. You realize you've spent so much of your life being everything to everyone. Wife, mother, caregiver, friend, volunteer. And somewhere along the way, your own needs got pushed down the list. Maybe even off the list entirely. You didn't complain. You kept showing up, because that's what strong women do. But now there's a quiet voice inside that says, "What about me?" That voice matters. That voice is wisdom. And one of the most loving things you can do for yourself at this stage of life is to set boundaries. Real, healthy, clear boundaries. Not because you're selfish, but because your peace is precious, and you deserve to protect it. Let me ask you this. Have you ever agreed to something you really didn't want to do? Maybe you said yes to watching the grandkids even when you were exhausted, or you listened to a friend vent for the 3rd time this week when you barely had energy to return a text. You didn't want to seem rude. You didn't want to disappoint anyone. But later, you felt drained, maybe even resentful. That's not peace. That's self-abandonment. Here's the truth. Every yes you say to others is also a no to yourself, unless that yes is rooted in joy and alignment. So if you're constantly saying yes out of guilt, fear, or habit, it may be time to lovingly, firmly set a new standard. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting people off. It doesn't mean building walls or becoming cold. It simply means telling the truth about what you need. It's saying, "I love you, and I need time to recharge tonight." Or, "I care about you, but I can't carry this emotional load alone." That's honesty. That's strength. Let me tell you about a woman named Denise. Denise is 67, retired, and lives alone. She's kind and generous, and her phone used to ring constantly. Neighbors needing help, her daughter needing babysitting, friends calling late at night to talk through their problems. She didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, so she kept answering, kept helping, and slowly started feeling invisible in her own life. One night, after missing her favorite painting class again to help someone else, she sat down and cried. Not because she was angry, but because she was tired of always being on the back burner. So she made a decision. She wrote out a few simple boundaries on a piece of paper, things like no calls after 8 p.m., Fridays are for me, and it's okay to say no without explaining. And you know what? It changed everything. At first, people were surprised. A few even pushed back. But over time, they respected her more. And Denise, she felt alive again. You don't have to write a list like she did, but you can take a moment to notice what drains you. What do you keep saying yes to, even though you feel a no deep inside? Start there. That's where your boundary lives. And when you're ready to speak that boundary, remember, you don't owe anyone a dramatic explanation. A simple, kind, I won't be able to do that, is enough. You're allowed to protect your time, your space, and your peace, especially now. Speaking of peace, let's talk about something that can shake it like nothing else: criticism. No matter how old we are, hearing someone criticize us, especially someone we care about, can cut deep. Maybe it's your adult child questioning your choices. Maybe a friend makes a snarky remark about your appearance. Or maybe it's just that little voice in your head that echoes what others once said. You're too much. You're not enough. You should be different. But what if criticism isn't always an attack? What if sometimes it's a mirror? It's often said that the things in others that irritate us the most can reveal something important about ourselves. And I'd add this: everything that hurts us because of others can also become an opportunity to grow stronger on the inside. The next time someone's words sting, try this. Take a breath. Don't react right away. Let the comment sit for a moment, like a puzzle piece. Then ask yourself, is there any truth here? Not the whole comment, maybe just a sliver. And if so, is it something I want to look at, or is this their projection? Here's what that might look like. Imagine you spent hours cooking for a family gathering, and your sister-in-law walks in and says, "Oh, you didn't make the green bean casserole this time?" You feel your heart drop. You worked so hard, and all she sees is what's missing. You could snap back, or you could stew silently. But what if instead, later on, you journaled the moment? You wrote, "I felt hurt. I felt unappreciated." Then you ask yourself, why does this matter so much to me? Maybe it touches an old pattern, feeling like your efforts are never enough. That's not about her. That's about healing something you deserve to heal. On the other hand, sometimes criticism is just plain unfair. Maybe someone comments on your weight or your lifestyle or your decision to travel more instead of babysitting. That kind of feedback says more about them than you. And you have every right to let it slide off your shoulders like rain on a well-worn coat. The key is learning to separate your worth from someone else's opinion. You are not here to live up to anyone's standards but your own. You are not here to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. And you are not obligated to accept every critique as gospel truth. If a comment sticks with you, pause and ask, is this about me, or is it about them? If it's useful, use it. If it's not, bless it and release it. There's a beautiful strength in being able to hear feedback without letting it define you. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. And the more you practice this, the lighter your heart feels. You stop wasting energy defending yourself. You start using that energy to nurture yourself. You've lived long enough to know this. People will always have opinions. They'll judge. They'll comment. They'll misunderstand you. Let them. That's not your burden to carry. What you can carry, though, is your own truth, your own sense of self. And when you set boundaries and choose which voices to take seriously, your inner world becomes much quieter and much more peaceful. There's something about holding on that feels so natural. We hold on to memories, to people, to beliefs about who we are and how things should have turned out. Sometimes we even hold on to pain, not because we want to, but because we don't quite know how to let go. But what if I told you that letting go doesn't mean giving up? It means choosing peace over pain, choosing freedom over resentment, choosing to finally set down the weight that was never yours to carry forever. At this stage of life, you've probably had your share of heartbreak, a friend who betrayed your trust, a child who drifted away, a marriage that didn't grow with you, words that were said and couldn't be taken back. And maybe you've replayed those moments 100 times in your mind, wondering what you could have done differently. But here's a gentle truth: replaying the past won't rewrite it. And you don't need to carry the burden of what someone else did or didn't do forever. Letting go is one of the most powerful emotional skills you'll ever learn. It's not forgetting. It's not pretending. It's simply loosening the grip you have on the hurt so it no longer controls you. Let me share a story. Linda, 72, told me about her sister, who had once said something deeply hurtful during a family disagreement. They didn't speak for years. Every holiday, every birthday, Linda felt the sting all over again. She kept saying, "When she apologizes, maybe then I'll feel better." But the apology never came. One day, Linda said she realized something. Waiting for someone else to make it right was keeping her stuck. So she sat quietly, put her hand over her heart, and whispered, "I forgive you. Not because you asked, but because I need to breathe again." She cried. Then she exhaled. And something inside her softened. Letting go isn't for the other person. It's for you. And it doesn't have to be big or dramatic. It can be simple. You feel the pain. You honor it. You thank it for what it taught you. And then you release it. Like dropping a pebble into a river and watching the ripples fade. You can even try this gentle ritual. When something keeps tugging at your heart, an old resentment, a missed opportunity, write it down on a piece of paper, then tear it up, burn it safely, or place it in a box you don't need to open again. It sounds small, but it creates space inside you, space for healing, space for joy. And speaking of joy, I want to share something truly transformative: the quiet, steady power of gratitude. Now, I know gratitude can sound like one of those things people say when they don't know what else to say. Just be grateful. But this isn't about pretending everything is okay. It's about shifting your focus so that you remember what still is. When life feels hard, and it does sometimes, it's easy to zero in on what's missing. The aches in your knees, the phone that doesn't ring as often, the way the world moves too fast and leaves you feeling behind. But when you choose gratitude, you flip the lens. You begin to see not just what's gone, but what's still here. You wake up and say, "I'm grateful I woke up." You walk outside and say, "I'm grateful for this breeze, for this sunlight, for these legs that still carry me." You hear a friend's laugh or sip your favorite tea and realize this moment is enough. Gratitude doesn't erase the hard stuff, but it gives your heart a soft place to land. There's a woman named Ellie who keeps a small notebook by her bed. Every night before she sleeps, she writes down 3 things she's thankful for. Some days, it's something big, a visit from her grandson, a good report from the doctor. Other days it's small, a warm blanket, a delicious bowl of soup, the way her cat curled up beside her. And she told me, "It helps me remember that even when life isn't perfect, it's still precious." That's the secret. Gratitude brings you back to the present. It slows your mind and settles your spirit. It reminds you that you're not behind. You're right on time. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait for everything to be peaceful around you to feel peace within you. You get to create that peace every moment, every day. So if your mind starts racing with what ifs or old regrets, pause and ask yourself, what am I grateful for right now? Even if it's just one thing, a breath, a memory, a song. Let that small flicker of gratitude grow. Let it become a light that warms you from the inside out. Because here's what I believe with all my heart. You are not too old to feel joy. You are not too late to find peace. You are not too broken to be whole again. Mastering your emotions isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up with grace, even when things are messy. It's about pausing when you're angry, breathing when you're overwhelmed, and choosing yourself over and over again. You've spent so many years caring for others. Now it's time to care for your own heart, your own energy, your own well-being. That's not selfish. That's sacred. So today, take this as a loving reminder. You are strong enough to feel everything and still find peace. You are wise enough to respond with intention instead of reaction. And you are worthy, so deeply worthy, of a life that feels gentle, grounded, and undisturbed. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you're ready to let go of today? Or maybe one small moment you're grateful for? Share it in the comments. We're building a beautiful community here, and your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And if this video touched your heart, please give it a like, share it with someone you care about, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, Elderly Faith Journey, for more encouragement, healing, and wisdom for this beautiful stage of life. You're not walking this path alone. We're in this together. Here's to living your best life, calm, clear, and deeply rooted in peace. And remember, no matter what the world brings, you get to decide how you feel inside. Take a deep breath. Let it go. You've got this.